Greetings, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. And your family's doing well. Everyone is healthy, strong, and living the dream, having school at home. I want to talk today a little bit more about 19.3. Carter and Ford in the election. Ford is president. As you know, he became vice president from Nixon, and Nixon resigned. Ford becomes president. Ford had several failed policies, and one of the biggest mistakes, bad things to happen to him, was the Mayaguez ship that was captured off the coast of Cambodia. We had naval personnel on board, of course, and Ford dispatched people after several days of failed negotiations. He dispatched a unit to go rescue them. Unbeknownst to anyone, the Cambodians already released them. But in the meantime, nobody knew what was going on. They attacked the base where they were supposedly held. Many people died. And for what? They already were released. Not good for Ford in the papers. And Ford is about ready to hit this election with Carter. As I told you last time, Carter was perceived as an outsider. He was governor of Georgia, but he was not part of the Washington Beltway establishment, not a career politician. Everyone likes to think of him as a peanut farmer. Look, he never got his hands dirty. Okay, he might have had a peanut farm, but far from being a farmer. And he was perceived as an honest man. People didn't trust government. He was perceived as a faithful man. He was a Christian, born-again Christian. He let everyone know in the Playboy article. Carter narrowly beats Ford in the election, and he becomes president. And I'll let you decide for yourself. But when people talk about the worst presidents ever, Carter's name comes up a lot. He did not work Congress well. He had a main theme in him, and that was human rights. And he wanted human rights for the whole world. But as I told you, our economy was in shambles, and Carter didn't do much to alleviate any of that situation. He did try several things. He said, well, let's increase spending and decrease taxes. So we spent a lot, didn't get much back for it, and we didn't collect much. So that didn't work. Then he said, well, let's reduce the money supply. Let's take a lot of money out of circulation and raise interest rates, making money more expensive to borrow and taking a lot more money out of the system. Terrible. They raised interest rates, and this was really Carter's demise, and I do kind of remember this. We had been thrown out of our house. Been there, done that. And people weren't buying homes because money was too expensive. There were very few places to live. There were still high unemployment, very few places to work, very few new places to live. But if you were a renter, we were, and there's very few places to rent, what happens to the price of rent? Up. Likewise, if you're looking for a home and there's very few homes being built and very few businesses thriving, because to borrow money was so costly, it was about 20%. Today it's 3 or 4%. Business doesn't happen. People don't build homes. People don't hire carpenters. People don't have plumbers. People don't have cement and mason workers. They don't have drywall workers. They don't have carpet. They don't have for new furniture. They don't buy new refrigerators, and so on all down the line. Everybody suffers. he maintained that this 20% interest was going to be good for the economy, and of course it was not. It was pretty close to a disaster. Nothing Carter did worked. Strange, but he was the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not good. Carter thought the most serious problem of the country was two things. One was our dependence on foreign oil, which meant the Arabs. We were still hurting from the first oil embargo, and there's talk about another oil embargo coming up. Not good for Carter, not good for the American people either. Carter said, well, when I say dependent on foreign oil, I mean the Arabs mostly. We were getting way too much of our oil from the Arabs, and all the time we had it in the ground. It wasn't until lately, the last few years, 3 years, that government deregulation has been put on the side, and it's open market for everyone. And now the United States produces a lot more oil than what we can bring in. Okay. But at the time, 1970, Carter managed to convince Congress, hey, we need a Department of Energy. Carter went around and said, look, you don't need your apartment, your house at 72 degrees, 74 degrees. It should be 68 degrees. It's okay for you to be a little cold. Put on another sweater. Carter was doing all of these things. He gave a speech to the American people. It is known as the Malaise speech. He did not use that word. But in effect, he said the problem with the American people is they're lacking confidence. I suppose we're lacking confidence in him and confidence in our economy. Well, everything you did, Jimmy, was wrong. It didn't work. So we have nothing to base confidence on. But more important than that, it seemed as if he was blaming the American people. There he is right there, out of your textbook. He blamed the American people for his failures, and that never flies. People don't mind if you fail. What they mind is when you blame everybody else for failing. Take ownership of your mistakes. Make them right, but don't shove them off and spin them off to everybody else. You did it, you were wrong, you correct it, and people will respect you for that. They do not respect blame game. Okay, so Carter tried to change the domestic oil industry. And this is where the big bad oil companies come in. Of course, they have been always big, and they haven't been always good. But they do make a lot of money. They do, of course, they make a lot of money. But they spend a lot of money, and they research for new sources of energy and new oil, but they really want that oil. And Carter said, okay, you can make some money, but you're going to make it the hard way, and we're going to tax the heck out of you. And if you make too much, we're going to tax you even more. Well, come on, Jimmy. Your days are numbered. And he could not come up with an answer other than blaming the American people and blaming the oil companies. He proposed a national energy program to conserve oil, promote the use of coal. At the time, coal was not the clean burn it is now. We'd used too much coal. We're never going to see the sun again back in the 70s. But now coal is fine now, and we can see a whole reviving of the coal industry. But it's new. It's not the grandfather's coal business anymore. Carter agreed to support deregulation. That means government take away some of these silly rules and these heavy rules. But Carter's main downfall is going to be foreign policy. Now, there are several videos on the support videos. I hope you watch them all. It does give a very good explanation as to the origins of the Iranian hostage crisis and we'll go into that on another time. Carter's achievement, well, he brought Israel and Egypt together. He's put them all up in Camp David, said, you guys, we give you both a lot of money. Do not come out of these rooms until you come up with an agreement. It's called the Camp David Accords. It was peace between Egypt's president, Anwar Sadat, and Israel, whose president, I believe, was Menachem Begin at the time. Of course, it was not well received in the Arab world. Wasn't too much longer after that Sadat was shot and killed on the air tarmac of Cairo at a military parade. A bunch of soldiers got out of the truck, aimed their guns right at him, and they just blew everybody around him away. Carter, also known for the Panama Canal, built and paid for by the United States of America. But Carter thought, well, you know what? It's in their country. We're going to give it to them. They had to wait 20 years, but they got it, and that is a big money maker. And it was just given away. Okay. So we didn't have much to show for it. And for all I know, we're paying today to get it through the Panama Canal. So it was bad news for Carter. He went through a lot of protests and couldn't really come up with anything good. But I know you can come up with some good stuff, and hopefully you'll complete 19.3, 1 to 5, ready for the quiz, and we're moving on. Have a fine, fine day. Peace.